Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the return of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling review series. This is the May 2nd, 1992 edition. Um, and it's a very basic show. We put the series on hold because, well, to be completely honest, I got in distraction with other series. We've got nearly almost 1,800 audios available on the channel now. My goal is by the end of the year to have 2,500. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, I got to move and other things to plan for, so that may or may not happen. Anyhow, so Bob Caudle and Dutch Mantell. Mantell still has Carl Styles at his sides. This basically is going to be a very short review because it includes extended highlights from each of the 5 Smoky Mountain Tag Team title matches, which we've covered in other television programs, so there's no reason to do it here. The one thing that is there is the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Championship Tournament semifinal. Bobby and Jackie Fulton defeat Jack Victory and Rip Morgan in 801 when Jackie pins Morgan with a crossbody off the top rope. Bob Caudle interviews the Fantastics, who thank the fans for their support, and they want to become the first tag team champions. As mentioned, as we go through these, and certainly that is the goal of this, one thing I will say is Smoky Mountain Wrestling in a lot of ways has the proper, along with something like a USWA / Memphis Wrestling, which is a series I eventually want to get to here, but they have the proper, I guess, foray into wrestling that makes sense. The story, each person on the program, or at least each segment on the program, can stand alone, be valuable to itself, and ultimately be understood by a fan coming in off the street. The idea of the Heavenly Bodies, which Lane and Pritchard, and then later Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey, an amazing tandem, and Jim Cornette, to his credit, who originally thought that he was going to get Bobby Eaton for that role, at least according to Cornette, over the years. Has been able to, as my show kicks on there, but was able to create a completely different tag team. Tom Pritchard. Tom Pritchard, certainly a guy who has a lot of value, who has a lot of integrity, intensity. The Batten twins are highlighted here, as are Bad Boy Billy Black and Jack Victory and Rip Morgan. Victory, of course, a guy who, and if you haven't checked out our World Class series, over 300 editions to that. The Wild Bunch, Billy Black and his partner are highlighted here too. I love the attempt to bring wrestling to local towns. That's another big thing here. It's just there because it makes sense. Obviously, the Carl Styles thing with Dutch Mantell is interesting because eventually Styles does turn on Mantell. Styles basically an enhancement talent guy. The Russians of Ivan and Vladimir Koloff against the Rich Boys, Johnny and Tommy, or actually Joey Maggs and, in this case, Joey Maggs and Danny Davis. Also an interesting run there, as Joey Maggs, enhancement talent for the WCW over the years, and Danny Davis, of course, without whom, and his dedication to the sport over 30 plus years, we wouldn't have Ohio Valley Wrestling or the various talents that came out of the area. We also have local area promos, which I think is a lost art. Independent promoters should be doing them at every opportunity. Tim Horner, Brian Lee, who eventually becomes his first Smoky Mountain world champion, or heavyweight champion more accurately, and the Fantastics, Jackie and Bobby Fulton, encouraging the fans to bring Smoky Mountain Wrestling to their local towns, and also promoting an upcoming Beckley, Virginia nature. And all these, at this point, almost 30 years later, or actually over 30 years later, acknowledgement there. We see the Batten twins against the Heavenly Bodies, highlights of that. And certainly the Heavenly Bodies at this point. Stan Lane, I wish he'd stayed around longer, but he ends up retiring and, well, going to the WWF as a talking head for a bit, and then retiring, and I think having a fishing show or some other television program on ESPN for a while, and that's his lot in life. But anyway, we see the brackets for the tag team competition. Robert Gibson, Jimmy Golden, Tim Horner, this is the brackets for the Volunteer Slam on the 22nd of May. In the singles tournament, Robert Gibson, Jimmy Golden, Tim Horner, Paul Orndorff, Buddy Landell, and Brian Lee, and Dixie Dynamite, and Dirty White Boy. And we will be covering the Volunteer Slam as its own standalone thing. So again, some shortened reviews here, as the television just is that. Love the drug prevention ad for Bob Armstrong. Also, he's just brought forward as a guy who, to be completely honest, has the integrity to manage to be, a commissioner who sounds like he cares about the future of the business, cares about the fans, cares about the local town. I think we've lost that. The voice of a promotion should be someone who actually is believable, but also likable. I think the likability factor has been lost. Anyway, the Heavenly Bodies basically are talking about an upcoming 4-cent show that is coming to town, where kids are 4 cents to get in, and Jim Cornette actually cracks a comment that that's about all they're worth. Also, Cornette promises they're going to be the first tag team champions. And again, we close with I believe the only original match on the program, which is the Fantastics facing off against which is Bobby and Jackie Fulton against Jack Victory, Rip Morgan, 801. Obviously, the Fantastics are a team that has been known. Of course, the Fantastics, also Tommy Rogers played that role as well. Throughout Texas and other areas, UWF and the like, when the Fulton boys couldn't be together. So just a name in team, but having value, especially for Southern fans. Fantastic's name, pretty good deal here. They're a very basic Southern tag team, nothing wrong with that. And obviously they get along quite well. Jack Victory looks a little chunkier than when we saw him in the UWF. Good double teams, including the old rowboat spot by the Fantastics as they sit down and sit out and try to get as much of a finish out of that as possible. One would say that for the most part, Morgan and Victory have to cheat to get the advantage over the Fantastics, and the Fantastics do a lot of attempt to get to the hot tag. Kind of reminds me of a minor version of the Rock and Roll Express, who, by the way, show up in Smokey Mountain a bit later. Bob Caudle, phenomenal spokesman. He's not yelling, he's not screaming, he's not overselling, but he's making you care about the talent. And then you see off the top rope one of the Fultons with the crossbody, getting the victory there. And again, the Fultons promise, or the endeavor to be the first tag team champions in the history of the Smoky Mountains. We'll be back with more right after this.